Hi guys, today we're going to be talking about translating lyrics and music, and I have a lot to cover, so I'm just going to get straight into it. Translating song lyrics is a complex task because it requires strong translation skills, but also the creativity of an artist. Translating songs requires you to capture the emotion, the rhythm, and rhyme of the original song, and translating it so that it can resonate with a different audience who speaks a different language and has a different culture. So it requires not only linguistic accuracy and cultural adaptation, but also some artistic expression. So translating song lyrics is very similar to translating a poem, and it can be challenging because of those linguistic and aesthetic and cultural elements that encompass both poems and song lyrics. And linguistic constraints make direct translation of a poem and keeping the rhyme essentially impossible because of the different phonetics across languages. So direct translation of poems typically isn't done because the rhyming sequences will not work. And a cultural element that we run into when translating song lyrics as well as poems is the cultural connotation of the words chosen. So one of these elements can be the use of idioms, which are not universal, which we've talked about in class. So with the change of words, you can lose some of those feelings and emotions when translating. So it's really important to make sure that those words the words you choose have a similar connotation to the lyrics and have the same meaning in both your source text and your target text. And so when translating song lyrics, you run into an issue that when translating poems, you do not. And this is getting your translation to fit into the melody of the music. This further creates an issue with direct translation because not only will it not rhyme, most likely won't fit into the musical melody and rhythm. So if we look at this common or well-known song example, we can see that the English version actually has 11 syllables and the Spanish version has 13. And so even if you translate the words poetically to fit into rhyme, will they match the syllables in a measure and within a line? So this is where an even more creative expression comes into translating music, and while you don't have to be a Mozart, you do have to have some understanding about music and how it works in order for the translation to sound good, to be effective and productive. So there are three main ways that we can solve these issues when it comes to translating song lyrics. The first one is transcreation, which is basically a rewriting of the lyrics to fit the melody of the music. And second is you can change the melody or actual music part of the song. And finally, depending on what you're translating, if you're translating something that's in a movie that will be on screen, you could just put subtitles for those words. For subtitling, this one is for on-screen use only. We typically see this kind of translation used in movies, TV shows, videos. This type of translation allows for the original harmony and rhythm of the music to stay the same, while the audience can still get a full understanding about the meaning of the lyrics. A benefit to this type of subtitling is you can translate a little more directly, since when reading subtitles it isn't quite as necessary for the words to rhyme and they don't have to actually fit the melody. So a great example of this is K-dramas. This kind of translating is found a lot in them. So a quick little example here. I'm just gonna pause it there. So if this kind of translation is what you need to do, some helpful resources are things that we've used a lot in class for subtitling, such as like the Ray, the Corpus, Spanish dictionaries, because first you'll need to translate the words, then you can focus on how to put them on the screen. And for putting them on the screen or actual subtitling, you can use things like YouTube Studio, Filmora, Wondershare, Subtitle. Basically, there's a lot of options in this department. So another approach when we aren't in the cinema to translating song lyrics is to adjust the melody or the rhythm of the song to help the translated words fit in. This is necessary when a more direct word-for-word translation is needed. The approach focuses a lot more on keeping the original meaning of the song and adjusting the music to fit the words. This approach is pretty uncommon, but it is used sometimes. It can be pretty difficult because it does require more than a basic understanding of music theory, because you have to change the music, keep it in the same key, the same time signature and tempo and all that stuff. So a great example is the LDS song, children's song, I Belong to the Church of Jesus Christ. So while a lot of the lyrics did change, it was necessary that they kept the whole name of the church in its entirety in the song, which required them to change the actual music notes here. So here's the English version.
I belong to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
And then in comparison, the Spanish version. So this can get really complicated because it requires a lot more music understanding, but in certain cases, kind of like this, it is necessary. So you'll have to understand music for this kind of translation to work, or you're at least gonna have to work alongside a composer. So some of the things that can help you in this process is kind of a music generator program. It helps you write music and hear what it sounds like. So a common one that I used is called MuseScore. This one is popular because you can actually play the music and it can write it for you, for the most part. That way it doesn't require quite as much detailed music theory understanding. However, you will need some translation devices to help you because you probably will still end up condensing and changing a lot of the words. So you can use a lot of the sources that I've already mentioned here. So finally, the most common version of translating song lyrics is through the use of transcreation. Transcreation, in a sense, is the recreation of a song so that it fits the melody and actual music part. Like we talked about earlier, phonetics amongst languages makes translating songs directly basically impossible. So changing the lyrics is more preferable because it keeps the sound of the music the same, which is typically the most important part. And so now when changing the lyrics, you usually want to try to keep at least the meaning or the emotion behind the song the same. Like you don't want a song about a breakup that has kind of an angry sound and tone to it to be paired with lyrics in a new language about getting married. So there are some kind of like boundaries you got to follow there. Although many times the meaning of the song will be changed still when translating song lyrics. And so a great example of this is the Frank Sinatra song My Way. I'm going to let you listen to this official Spanish version here, which was done by Vicente Fernandez. And I'm going to skip over it. I'm going to stop it. So basically, I have here in this chart the official English version on the left, and then a direct interpretation of the words, and then the actual Spanish version. And so the lyrics that they use for the Spanish version are obviously transcreated. It is a great example because it still holds the overall meaning and feeling of the song. So while the words are different, they still fit into that kind of happy, somber, and nostalgic-y feeling that the original Frank Sinatra version gives us. And so how can we transcreate? There's a lot of work to be done in transcreating. Again, we can focus on the resources that have been previously mentioned, but there's also a lot more. A big one is synonym finders. Many times you may know a word, but it doesn't really fit into the line you were writing or doesn't rhyme. So a simple solution is to use a different word that means a very similar thing. So some common synonym finders are things like thesaurus.com or WordHippo Synonym Finder. There's a large variety online. In today's world, you can also use AI. While this might not create your final product, it can help you give ideas about like what to change, where you want to go. It can open your mind to different possibilities for transcreating. So some examples are our famous ChatGPT, or of course you can use more specific ones for songs and music, such as Dubformer and SongSend AI. And also using a syllable counter can also help you make sure that you are keeping the same rhythm. And so while syllables may not have to be aligned perfectly because you can kind of draw or combine a word or two to match the rhythm and tempo, the syllable count does need to be close. And so of course you can always consult a native speaker for their input. They know their language best, and you can either contact one directly if you know somebody, or you can use online resources such as Polylingua. So hopefully you've learned a little bit more about song translation and have some new ideas and resources that you can use for solving common issues in translating music in your own lives. So here are the resources and sources that I used, and thanks for watching.